Welcome to Design Stanford. I'm Michael Kurash, and today we are in Stanford-upon-Avon, the birthplace of Shakespeare. Shakespeare has been the greatest English writer, and they say he was also the best dramatist in the world. Well, let's study his life and his birthplace and learn a little more about Shakespeare. Please join us. William Shakespeare is widely regarded as the greatest writer in the English language and the world's greatest dramatist. Though precious details are known about his life, numerous contemporary accounts and written facts allow modern historians to paint a picture of this brilliant man and the world he lived in. William Shakespeare was born in Stanford-upon-Avon. His exact date of birth is not known, but his baptism record was dated 26th of April 1564. He was the first son and the first surviving child in his family. His parents were John Shakespeare, a successful glover, and Mary Arden, the youngest daughter of John's father's landlord. His father's business was thriving at the time of William's birth. John Shakespeare owned several properties in Stratford and had a profitable, though illegal, sideline of dealing in wool. He was appointed to several municipal offices and served as an alderman in 1565, culminating in a term as bailiff, the chief magistrate of the town council in 1568. Little is known of William Shakespeare's childhood, but it is believed that he attended grammar school at King Edward VI School at Stratford, which was free for all male children to attend. By the time he was 10, Shakespeare was translating Cicero, Terence, Virgil, and Ovid. As a part of his education, the students performed Latin plays to better understand rhetoric. By the end of their studies, at age 14, grammar school pupils were quite familiar with the great Latin authors. Shakespeare is unique among his contemporaries in the extent of figurative language derived from country life and nature. The familiarities with the animals and plants of the English countryside exhibited in his poems and plays, especially the early ones, suggests that he lived the childhood of a typical country boy, with easy access to rural nature and a propensity of outdoor sports, especially hunting. On 27th of November 1582, Shakespeare was issued a special license to marry Anne Hathaway. He was 18 and she was 26. The reason for the special license became apparent 6 months later with the baptism of their first daughter, Susanna, on 26th of May 1583. 2 years later, William and Anne welcomed twins, Hamnet and Judith. After the baptism of his twins in 1585, and except for being party to a lawsuit to recover part of his mother's estate, Shakespeare leaves no historic traces until Robert Greene jealously alludes to him as part of the London theatrical scene in 1592. This 7-year period, known as the lost years to Shakespeare's scholars, was filled by early biographers with surmises about the onset of his acting career. It is believed that at this time, Shakespeare garnered considerable reputation as an actor and burgeoning playwright. To this day, there is a speculation of what Shakespeare did during this time. Some say he was a school teacher, others suggest he joined the army, some even think he killed a man. It is known that by 1592, Shakespeare was an actor and playwright in London. He had garnered enough of a reputation to have his contemporaries write jealous letters of his success. By late 1594, Shakespeare was part owner of a playing company, known as the Lord Chamberlain's Man. Like others of the period, the company took its name from its aristocratic sponsor, in this case, the Lord Chamberlain. The group became so popular that after the death of Elizabeth I and the coronation of James I in 1603, the new monarch adopted the company, which then became known as the King's Men, after death of their previous sponsor. Shakespeare's works are written within the frame of reference of the career actor, rather than a member of the learned professions or from scholarly book learning. The Shakespeare family had long thought armorial bearings and the status of gentlemen. William's father John, now a bailiff of Stratford with a wife of good birth, was eligible for a coat of arms and applied to the College of Heralds, but evidently his worsening financial status prevented him from obtaining it. The application was successfully renewed in 1596, most probably at the instigation of William himself, as he was more prosperous at the time. By 1598, his name began to appear on title pages of his plays, presumably as a selling point. There is tradition that Shakespeare, in addition to writing many of the plays his company enacted and concerned with business and financial details as part owner of the company, continued to act in various parts, such as the ghost of Hamlet's father and the chorus in Henry V. By the early 17th century, Shakespeare had become very prosperous. Most of his money went to secure his family's position in Stratford. Shakespeare himself seems to have lived in a rented flat while in London and traveled to Stratford to stay with his family for a period each year. Shakespeare was an adept businessman and parlayed the success of his dramatic works into wealth for himself and his family. He purchased farmland and a stake in grains around Stratford. Considerable donations to his church ensured he would be well regarded in the community during his later years and after his death, which came much earlier than expected. After a successful career in London, William Shakespeare returned to Stanford-upon-Avon at the age of 49 to retire. Some accounts suggest that after contracting a fever, Shakespeare died on his 52nd birthday and was buried in the church at Stratford. His gravestone, written by the bard himself, threatens to curse anyone who attempts to move his bones after burial. Nearby, a memorial sculpture of Shakespeare shows him writing. Each year on his birthday, a new inkwell is placed in the sculptor's hand. Shakespeare's legacy quickly grew in the years after his death. The first complete folios of his work were published in 1623, just 7 years after his death. Today, one of these folios is valued for millions of dollars. Shakespeare is, without a doubt, the most prolific playwright of all time. His work has been translated into every known language and is performed more than any other dramatist in history. It is believed that at any given moment, his work is being performed somewhere in the world. I hope you enjoyed this video into Shakespeare's life and legacy. The biggest question I ever had was, did they call him William, Will, or Bill? Well, I asked, and they said he refers himself to Will. Well, here we go. That's the house of Will Shakespeare. Until next time on Design Santa Barbara.